cutest. That's all I'm saying.
My girlfriend's dog's pretty cute.
Greyhounds are like genetically perfect. They're like the supermodel of dogs. Like
I'm sorry.
And my girlfriend's dog name is Leia, and it's Star Wars Day. So.
Okay, so she gets a point there. Mushu gets a point because he's laying and sleeping, and that's a point because he gets to sleep.
Look, Jordan's doing that right now. There you go.
Nothing is.
Yeah, also, is there a famous greyhound dog named something like rhymey and catchy like Doug the Pug? Because I'm pretty sure a lady is making a career off of her pug. Just proves that pugs are the best.
No, they get treated like crap by owners and everything else. So no, there isn't, unfortunately.
Nothing is more boring than people talking about how cute their dogs are.
It's true.
Gosh, you're a party pooper, Mike.
He is. I'm glad you're learning that, Jillian. Whatever, yeah. And he has no problem pissing in anybody's Cheerios.
Do not. Oh wait, real quick. Jonathan sends me a text this morning, and he said, "I just poured water on my cereal." He eats Cheerios every day.
I've been there.
It's time to go back to bed.
Hey, when you run out of milk, you have to improvise.
We have plenty of milk. It's just that's the level of sleepiness.
I don't remember what movie it was, but I remember somebody pouring cereal and pouring beer in their Cheerios and eating it.
Oh.
Yeah. And anyway, you don't understand, everybody. We are live. Yes, we are live.
Good.
And everybody enjoyed that conversation. And you don't understand the argument, the banter that has been going back and forth the last 24 hours between a few of us regarding the miracle of Leicester City winning the EPL title.
You ready for this?
Yeah. Now, just the amusing part of it was pretty, and I told Dan this before we started the show. Tom Hanks, Oscar-winning actor, everybody likes. He was in England. I think he probably was filming his new HBO series on the 8th Air Force, which I'm looking forward to, and bet the £100 on Leicester City.
Maybe. We don't know if he did.
Well, it could be an elaborate joke, but right now I'm taking it as, why would he joke about it? But okay, fine if he is.
It's Tom Hanks.
It's Tom Hanks. £100, it means he won £500,000 on Leicester City, which is amazing.
No, it's more than that.
No, £100 at 5,000 to 1. It's £500,000 equaled out to, I think, $730,000.
Let Dan figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Well.
All right. You're right.
That's a resident mathematician.
No, I was thinking dollars. I'm like, no, that's like $750,000.
Yeah, it's 750 grand in terms of U.S. money, but pounds, it was 500,000 pounds.
Right.
But I don't know who asserted this, but it may have been you, Julian, that said that this was a bigger event.
I never said it was bigger. Okay. I just was comparing it to the Miracle on Ice. I was trying to make a point that it's a super. If you talk about sports, you can't ignore when something this major happens. And gambling odds are gambling odds. So 5,000 to 1 is still greater than 1,000 to 1, and it's less unlikely to happen strictly because it's a season. They played a full season, and
it's not one game.
What was that?
It's not one game here. It's 38 games.
If you said the U.S. team had to beat Russia 8 times, that's way more impressive. But also, I disagree in the fact that there was more pressure on one team or another. Neither of these teams had pressure, really, because neither of them were expected.
That's wrong. I disagree with you.
How so? How is that true? How is there no
when you're playing, regardless if you're an amateur or a professional, when you're playing against the Red Army team, when the U.S. hates Russia, not Canada, that was a Freudian slip. When the U.S. hates Russia,
that's true too, though.
I got to tell you, you have the weight of the country on your shoulders, and Herb Brooks talked about that. It didn't matter if they were kids. They
were 19-year-old kids. It was on tape delay at 5:30 in the afternoon.
No, it was on tape delay at 8 o'clock at night. Get it right.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I was 1 year old.
I was not alive. So I was not there. But when I was in Lake Placid, and I did talk to the head of the Olympic Museum and interviewed the president of the Office of Sustainable Tourism, and they really didn't focus too much on that event specifically. You know, they talked about how great it was when they won, but the big thing for them was they really like their speed skating history there. They're really big on that. So I'm not downplaying the significance of the U.S. team winning. That I not will downplay, and it didn't change global politics the way that did either. Like, this is one team in England won the English Premier League. I'm not changing that. I'm just saying that this is an unlikely event, and it's huge. It's a huge sports moment.
Well, I never liked the Jim McKay comparison that he used in the broadcast. He compared it to a Canadian college football team beating the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I didn't think was apt. These were good college players, and and a lot of them had really good NHL careers. But geopolitically, it had a massive effect. This was after the Russians had invaded Afghanistan and all these other things, and the U.S. was the hostage crisis was going on in Iran. So it was politically and motivationally for the United States. It was a big thing. The thing is, Dan, and I because when this discussion was coming up, I looked up a few things. Because I watched that game, I watched it live on Canadian television since I lived in Buffalo. I was
since you live in Canada.
Since I basically live in Canada, yeah. They wanted to broadcast that game at 8 o'clock, but the Russians would not allow it because it would have been, I think, 4 a.m. in Russia. So they kept it at 5:30. So it was at least late in the night, but people would stay up to watch it at 1, not at 4. So that was the reason why. It was not because everybody knew it was an important game. Everybody knew it was. I mean, nobody expected the U.S. to win, but everybody knew it was important. I'm not diminishing the Leicester City, what they did. It's phenomenal, but let's get real here. It's
We're
not
just taking the politics out of this. Let's take the politics out of this. This is the equivalent. This is the equivalent of like the Missouri Mavericks or the Orlando Solar Bears of the ECHL moving up to the AHL and then moving up to the NHL, barely staying in the NHL, and then winning the Stanley Cup the following season. Beating teams, for example, just for some context, Manchester City has £250 million invested into 4 players that play on their bench. They don't even start. That is over double the current. Actually, no, I think it's 15 times the current salary of Leicester City. So it's basically a bunch of ragtag cast-offs from everybody else's team that kind of coalesced and came together for an entire season for 38 games. And it also proves the ineptitude of my Arsenal that they can't beat freaking Leicester City. That's how pathetic it is. Everyone should be fired.
Okay, that's fine. But wait,
lower your volume.
No, I'm angry.
The U.S. team was amateurs. They're not professionals.
These are barely. Some of these guys are barely professional players.
But they're professionals. That's the point.
Let
me talk.
Neil Broughton was an amateur player.
Professionals. The Russians were paid. The Russians were paid a lot of money. They were paid as much as NHL players back then.
One game.
Yeah, I think
Wait,
how does it not matter? How does the one game not matter?
Because that's all they went up against. But the idea
38 games, one game.
It doesn't matter how many games it was. It really doesn't.
No, it does, because you can have one great game. You can overcome adversity. It's like that's why they have the best of
Finland after that. I mean, they weren't just a one-trick pony. They had to beat other teams to win the gold medal. But here's my other point. My other point is just basically this. Kim Craig says no matter where he is in the world, someone stops him every day of his life and talks about that moment. In 10 years, how many players from this team will you be able to name, and how many players can people name, even in Sweden, from that U.S. team? That's what I want to know.
You have to be a hockey fan, first off. If you're not a hockey fan.
No, not necessarily.
Ask anybody my age, who's not a hockey fan, name any player on that team. They probably can't.
Your age is a whole different thing. I'm saying in time, I'm going 10 or 20 years down the road from now with your English Premier League team, how many people will be able to identify players on the street and know names across the world, not just in England?
Maybe one player, which makes it even more amazing that they're a bunch of no-name rags.
I'm not saying it's not amazing. I'm just saying it's not as great. That's all.
They basically have a 29-year-old striker who is a cast-off, and 29 years old in soccer is like 74 years old in the real world. Yeah. So they have a 29-year-old striker who's scoring at a clip that you've never seen. It should. I don't want to. I'm not discounting the Miracle on Ice. It's probably one of the most amazing sporting events of all time. This is. I guess it is hard to. it's hard to describe because you're talking over a course of a whole season as opposed to a small tournament. Over the course of a whole season, this is one of the most amazing. Maybe it's like the amazing Mets of '69. Maybe.
But here's the thing, too. 5,000 to 1. I was telling Mike off the air. Somebody was 10,000 to 1 to either win the Super Bowl or the World Series last year. Might have been the Phillies, right?
That was the Bills.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
But did they win it though? They didn't.
No.
That's the point. Is that this is a huge adversity they've overcome. And again, I was never trying to make the Miracle on Ice seem like it wasn't important. That was not what I was trying to do. But I was also trying to put it into perspective because I do know that while a lot of hockey fans are soccer fans, there are a lot of people that could care less about soccer in the United States, and trying to stress the importance and stress how incredible this story is for this team. It's an amazing story, and
well, it's funny because I mean, I love soccer, but I'm more of a World Cup guy. I don't have a team in the EPL, but there's like a place that I go in Buffalo that on Saturday mornings, there are a lot of the soccer hooligans will come there and watch the games on NBCSN. And all of them were pissed off because they're all like Man U or Tottenham or this was the Cinderella story and all their teams lost, and this team that came from nowhere.
I was actually pulling for Leicester because once Arsenal fell on their faces like they always do, I wanted to see someone better. And there's a special place in hell for Tottenham fans. There truly is.
Hey,
and there's also a
Tottenham fan.
Okay, I would not trust him. Seriously, I would do a background check. There's a special place in hell for Tottenham and Chelsea fans. So I was perfectly fine with Leicester winning. It just also shows the growth of the sport globally and the growth of the sport in the United States when NBCSN has a better money-making product in English Premier League than they do in the NHL.
Yeah, and I think that's another.
I don't know if that's entirely accurate. Do you have numbers to back that up?
I absolutely do. Yes.
Okay.
Well, that was another one of my main points was that ice hockey is not the world sport.
No.
Soccer is the world sport, and the English Premier League is the most watched, and it is across the world the most important league. So to win that in that case, the Miracle on Ice, yes, it's amazing what it did for hockey. It put it on a global scale. It made it relevant. And if you ask anybody my age, they do know what it is. Some of them probably only identify with the Miracle on Ice.
Yeah. And unless you were like a U.S. college hockey aficionado in 1979, you did
little Russ Cohen.
Yeah, you did not know. You did not know who the hell Ken Morrow or Mark Johnson or Neil Broughton was. So maybe some NHL general managers did because, like, Mike Ramsey was drafted by Buffalo.
They knew who Pat LaFontaine was when they left him off the team.
I'll be honest. I was 17. I probably knew 3 players on the team, maybe 4. That's what I knew.
Yeah.
All right, let's start the show.
Yeah, let's start the show.
So wait, just real quick, I win then, right? That's what this.
No, you lost.
I agree with you, Jillian. So yes, you win.
That's it. You've got
I'm messing with you guys.
If that's worth anything, you won that.
That's right.
The only thing you win, Jillian, is you can start off the roll call here.
Oh, gee, thanks, guys.
Yeah, there you go. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, May the 4th. Be with you, 2016.
I'm Jillian Fisher.
I am Jedi Daniel M. Petru.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Eklund is taking care of his son Owen. He will be back tomorrow to discuss the Washington-Pittsburgh game and any other things that are going on in the NHL. We have 3 games to talk about from last night, all pretty interesting.
No, 2 games. 2 games.
No, we're starting with that one, Dan.
No, 2 games. Nope.
Believe me, we are, because that was the most interesting.
Get out your tissues.
Yeah, that was the most interesting one, though, Dan. That was. It was. Sorry.
That's all right. I'm all right.
Unfortunately, the New York Islanders lost a 4-3 lead late in the third period on a tying goal by Nikita Kucherov, and lose 5-4 in overtime to the Tampa Bay Lightning on a Brian Boyle goal. Making it even worse, right before the goal, Brian Boyle laid out Thomas Hickey, who had laid out Jonathan Drouin early in the game. First, let's just talk about the game, then we'll talk about the hits. Russ, I thought that Tampa Bay, to sort of get the momentum in this series, I mean, they lost game 1. the Islanders jumped out on top, and I think the second half of the game, Tampa Bay responded. Then they win Game 2. Now, I'm not saying that the series is over with, because it's not. No. But now I think Tampa Bay, it has a bit of control in the series, even though there was a very close game last night.
Yeah, I think momentum changes from game to game. I'm not even going to say that, but I was happy with the way, everybody wants to use the grit word and everything else. I think Tampa showed a bit more of that. That may be the first time in Brian Boyle's career he's shown grit. I think they did a few things right. I still am not thrilled with the way Ben Bishop's playing. I thought, while that was a great shot by Cal Clutterbuck, I thought it was totally stoppable, considering it was over his glove hand and you knew where it was going. Guy's 6'7". I mean, I just was shocked that went in. But all that said, this is a close razor's edge series. But yeah, I guess Tampa's got a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, he got caught deep in the net. I mean, that pass went off Cizikas' skates.
It did.
Right to Clutterbuck, and he got caught deep in the net. I don't think there was any way he thought the puck was ending up in the slot. Dan, obviously, covering the Islanders, you have a different perspective here. I mean, first...
No,
go ahead.
Well, I would say I told everyone that this series was going to be 2-2 going back to Tampa, and I still feel that way. I still think it's a coin flip series. I think the Islanders might have played their best complete game in the entire playoffs last night. They did a lot of things right last night. Bishop was great in the first period. He wasn't great the rest of the game, but he was great in the first period. I thought Greiss was great too. If you can have a great goaltending matchup in a 5-4 game, they had that last night. The game was a little bit too wide open. The Islanders need to play better in their own end, and they need to the spacing between the defensemen and the forwards was not good in their own end. The D-zone coverage was not great, most notably on the game-tying goal by Kucherov, but we'll get into that later. I thought the Islanders did a lot of things right last night, so I don't think they should freak out yet. Like, if you lose Game 4, then you freak out.
Are fans blaming Greiss, though? Because I saw you sort of defend on Twitter.
Well, yeah, because there's just a few idiots. And like, if you think Greiss is the problem, just unfollow me. It's Dan Noodle 78, because you're an idiot.
Or follow.
Or follow, yes. I have to thank Eklund for giving me a shout out. I got like 75 new Twitter followers yesterday. But regardless, it's not about me. The Islanders.
The Islanders still being scratched though, because I feel like he's really fallen in favor. Now look, Justin Bailey's not cool, but he's really losing rapidly his place on that team.
Well, I don't understand. I have no problem. I didn't want Josh Bailey in the lineup because he had been so bad over the course of a round and a half. But okay, if he's going to come back in, maybe he plays over Bernier. Maybe he plays over Brock Nelson. Ryan Strom's been okay. He hasn't been great, but he has 4 points in 6 games. He's a plus player, and his course, he's a positive. There's not many Islander forwards you can say about. You can say that too. So moving forward, I would absolutely bring Strome back in for Game 4 and sit Brock Nelson. Brock Nelson's been a disaster. There's just no other way around it. He looks lost out there. He's floating. He's not. I don't know if it's just an utter lack of confidence, but for someone with that size and skill set, who scored 25 goals in the regular season, you wonder where that player is. So I would bring Strome back in, and I just don't understand why he's been the scapegoat when there's other players who merit sitting over him.
Jillian, I'm going to get your thoughts on the game, but also I was taken aback by, and maybe I shouldn't have been, but the crowd reaction at Barclay was louder than I ever expected. And I know Islander fans are passionate. I remember games at the Nassau Coliseum where it was a very intimidating place to play. But there, I mean, the crowd seemed much more into it than either one of the other games that I watched last night.
And well, part of it, I think it was nice to see, and if I'm a fan, I was happy to see more than just one line rolling out there. It was nice to see we said about both of those teams. They needed to get secondary scoring. They needed to get more lines producing, and both teams had that. But it was good to see it for the Islanders. And this is the first time that the fans get to see a second-round playoff series since 1993. That's exciting. That's the first home game, and they fell behind real quick, but then they come back, and it's a back-and-forth game. And I mean, I personally love that supporter sections. I think they do a great job getting the crowd into it, especially when there's a lull or there's a goal scored. It can get quiet there real quick, and that's what happens after a goal is scored. But the supporters group that's there does a very good job of starting simple "Let's Go Islanders" chants. Those are easy to pick up, and it's great to see the crowd reacting to it.
Dan, this was the game-winning goal. It was reviewed Wasn't this the second one that the Islanders were involved in, where there was a video review on the last goal on the overtime?
It was, but I mean, it was reviewed by the league. There wasn't reviewed. There was no challenges. That was looked at by the league.
I think challenges are out in overtime. I think it's
that's right.
Review.
That's right. Yeah, it was reviewed. I don't have a problem. When I first saw the hit, I was like, wow, that looks high. I watched it again. I think the hit was okay from a headshot perspective. If anything, I thought it was interference because the puck was gone. But you can't expect the NHL officials to call that in overtime. I mean, and regardless of whether they called that or not, there were plenty of calls and non-calls, both sides for the entire game. Like I stand by that the league-wide officiating is maddeningly inconsistent. It doesn't matter what team you're watching. You can point to 3 or 4 instances every game where like, wait, what? Because there was a clear breakaway early in the game, and Shane Prince got slashed right across the hands. And if that's not a penalty shot, I don't know what is. I mean, they called the power play. That's fine. But I think the Islanders right now, they really need Ryan Pulock back in this team. They are a different team when he is running the power play. Everybody has more space, and John Tavares' line needs to get going. They were not good last night. And honestly, if Kyle Okposo thinks he's a $6 million forward, start playing like one, because he's been invisible.
It's funny because you look at the St. Louis series, and we'll talk about that in a minute. David Backes is a UFA, and if he's making a case for getting a new contract, he's doing well because he's scoring and he's making a difference, and Okposo is not. Now, Russ, we were talking all last night during the game. I thought the Hickey hit was high, and every game now we're going to have a hit. It just seems that this playoffs, the
hit on Hickey or the hit on Drouin?
The Hickey hit on Drouin in the first period. I thought it was high.
Well, that's what happens, though, when the league sets a precedent. I mean, I get the 3-game suspension on Orpik, but it sets this precedent. It sets this tone now. Because 3 games is a lot in the playoffs. So now
it's 10 games in the regular season.
Yeah, so any hit that happens that's close to high, everybody's watching it like a hawk. And we have social media now. We have people who sit there and make GIFs of it, which actually I appreciate because I love being able to watch them again. But that's what happens. I think that's part of it. I think the fact that there's a 3-game suspension that comes out and we can watch it over and over and over again, everyone's going to talk about it.
I'll tell you what my beef is. I probably thought the same thing as Mike at the beginning, and then I watched the game and then I saw the Boyle hit, and I was like, that was simple payback. Like, you knew that was coming at some point somewhere, and it just happened to come at the end on the game-winning goal. But Jack Capuano is they're really just playing up to the NHL, and they probably won't. Neither guy will skate today, and everybody tries to get everybody suspended. But at the end of the day, if Hickey wants to make that hit and set that tone, then he's got to know his guys are going to get targeted too. Like, this is, I just don't like to see this, because did Hickey have to make that play to get the puck from Drouin? No way. But
he separated from the puck. Drouin lowered his head into the play. I don't know how that's high. Watch the play. It was right here. It was right here.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anything wrong with that hit. I think this is the play.
If Boyle's play is not a penalty, then Drouin's play is not a penalty.
I agree with that.
Either one is. I'm not saying either one is, but I'm just saying he made that hit with a purpose. There was other ways he could rather than.
There's nothing wrong with hitting with a purpose.
No, I'm saying, but you can't complain about it.
But he's saying the coach. You're saying the coach is kind of complaining, and that's
the coach is just trying to get. The coach is trying to get a call, and he's trying to get a call for later in the series. All coaches do that. Look what Sullivan said about Letang's hit.
Or if you look at like Trotz, what he did in Washington.
Right, Trotz did the same thing.
Us versus them mentality. Like, they don't want us to win, to kind of rally around that. And if that's,
I think Capuano went overboard. Cooper didn't say a word.
No. But Orpik, on the Orpik hit, Trotz said that this is biased for the Penguins once again. How is that worse than what Cappy said?
Oh, I think Cappy went way over. I do. Talking about
it was an emotional game. It was an overtime game. The play happened in overtime, and they talked to him 5 minutes after the game.
And honestly, one thing I'll say is I'd rather have my coach be passionate. There's nothing that would drive me more crazy than sitting there and thinking like the coach doesn't have my back, is not there, is not going to stand up for me.
And Cappy's been criticized for that. He's been criticized for not attacking, not standing up for his players.
Ironically, the NHL Department of Player Safety has not come out with anything regarding.
Yes, they have. Both hits. They're not looking at either hit. That's like a half hour ago.
I mean, what I was going to say was in terms of setting a hearing. So they've already cleared them. So I think it was basically let things lie. Boyle responded.
This is playoff hockey. That's what I want in playoff hockey. I don't want national.
I don't think Boyle was sending a message. I think Boyle was trying to make a play.
No, he was sending a message. When does Brian Boyle ever make that play? He never does.
Russ,
Brian Boyle can't fight. He shouldn't be bringing a pocket knife to a gunfight. He's one of the worst fighters in the last 10 years.
That was the first time Brian Boyle used his size in forever. Sorry, Mike.
Russ, you were saying after the game that Boyle had a smirk on his face. So
he was interviewed post game and was asked about the hit. He was talking about whoever it was, Hickey being on the wrong side, and he did what he had to do, and he was smirking the whole time. We know what's up. Everybody knows what's up.
That's fine.
But all I'm saying
he can't have glue on his gloves, though. He can't have glue on his gloves if Matt Martin challenges him. He can't.
No, I agree. But
why would you need to challenge him? I don't think
you need to. I'm just saying Brian Boyle is one of the worst fighters I've ever seen.
He is. There's no doubt about that. But all I'm saying is next game there will probably be fireworks, and we'll see if the refs are ready for it, because that's where this series is heading. Now
that's fine. It makes for a good series.
That plays into the Island. It
plays into the Islanders' advantage too. If the Lightning want to run around and try and hit us the whole game, that's fine.
Right. But here's the argument: do we want to go back to '70s hockey minus the fighting, which is what we're seeing, or do we want to see?
Idea.
No, I mean it's one or the other.
But the league won't define it, so this is what happens. The league won't define it.
And that's why we're seeing problems.
When the league said it's okay for Letang to slash someone in the throat, what kind of precedents are you setting?
Well, I mean,
Letang should still be suspended from that play. He shouldn't even be playing right now.
Dan, what we're gonna have is rollerball on ice. It's gonna be a war of attrition. I would not be surprised if we keep going down this road that somebody during this series takes a baseball swing at the back of at John Tavares' Achilles. That's the road we're going down, though. I mean, I love.
No one fights anymore. It's all these little dirty plays instead. I'd rather see guys drop the gloves.
There was a fight last night in the Stars Blues game, which to me that is how you respond to that check. That was not you knew that was late in the game. They were losing. They imploded. That was the worst case scenario for the Stars, and it happened. And then you have that dirty listen to me, dirty check on Pietrangelo, who is important to the Blues. You respond with some fisticuffs, I think, at that point. Well, and he cowered. That was annoying. He cowered.
And the funny thing is, to the analogy that Russ is making here, and I cited this last night. I think it was 1976 or 1977 playoffs, Philadelphia versus Toronto. The Flyers tried to literally kill Boris Salming. Boris Salming was a skilled defenseman, and it was guys like Paul Holmgren and Mel Bridgman, who was a rookie at that time, and they went after him, and they literally tried to have him carried off the ice.
Look what the Capitals
bleeding all over.
Look what the Capitals did to Gothisbeer in the first round.
But also look what Shen did to. Oh my gosh, who was the cross check today? Oh my gosh.
Oshie. Was it Oshie that he had?
Was it I think it was Oshie.
It doesn't matter. It was a horrible and dirty play, and he should have been embarrassed by that.
And he got suspended for 3 games, but it won't matter until.
But it would not. Yeah, not on that.
He didn't get suspended for that play.
Nothing happened on that play.
Nothing happened on that play.
On the Oshie, he got suspended 3 games for a hit. I think it was on Oshie in the last.
For a hit on Oshie, yeah.
Yeah, it was not nearly as bad as that cross check.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really dirty things happening, and I do think part of it is because of the way the league is going with trying to eliminate fighting, and it feels like nobody's being held accountable. Like you feel like you can go out there and be a punk.
Yes.
I'm going to say it. Be a punk and do dirty things, and you don't have to worry about an enforcer coming out there and setting you in your place.
All right. So now the perfect segue for that, Mike, is tonight's. We have to talk about who may be playing for Pittsburgh and who may not be playing.
Okay, we'll save that to the end because we'll talk about the 3 games here. But in terms of
I have some great stories about the 2 guys called up by the Penguins. Great stories.
In terms of goading into fights, I will go to the Nashville-San Jose game because you could see there was a big scrum. I think it was in the first period where James Neal is faking.
James Neal goes to big surprise.
Joe Pavelski. Why don't you pick on somebody your own size? He's obviously trying to get the Sharks' best player. In that series, it was 2-0 San Jose going in. Nashville wins. Great game for their special team. Shea Weber scores. Pekka Rinne did not look good again early in the game. But I think San Jose. It's ironic. San Jose is one of the best road teams in the league. Won in LA the first 2 games and did not look good last night. Russ, the one thing that was interesting was Mike Ribeiro, who is one of their better power play guys, healthy scratch.
Yeah, that's the coach sending a message. That's Lavi sending a message. He's done that before. We'll see if Ribeiro responds. That was interesting. The Marlowe goal was interesting in the sense that he's a guy that is going to be out there, and somebody's looking at him saying, "Look at this 36-year-old speed." Like that's, that was a pretty amazing play. But I didn't like the way Rene made that play either. It looked like he was so far out of position that he had to go all or nothing on that, and that's where I still think he's not quite right. But look, they won that game. Nashville played really well. They did, and their defense played really well. This is going to be that series. Like I told you, impossible to call because it won't shock me now if both teams lose their home games and then it's even. Like it just wouldn't even shock me.
Yeah,
the Predators seem to, whenever their backs are against the wall, like if you lose that game, you go down 0-3, it's grim. When their backs are against the wall, it's like they actually, not that they don't play in the other games, but it's just they never say die. It's like that team that you can never give up on because they're always looking to come back.
But Dan, this series is an impossible series to predict because these teams both have a history of not being dependable when it comes to the postseason.
Right.
So it's impossible to say, San Jose, like I was saying, San Jose is going to roll over them now if they split. Yeah, but they've never rolled over anybody. They've always found a way to lose. So how can you really accurately determine where this series is going to go? I mean, it's very likely that Nashville wins Game 4 and it goes back to San Jose 2-2, and then you don't know where the hell it's going.
No, I think I think the Preds when this year when pushed, they've pushed back, and that was like I said when they beat the Ducks to force the Game 7, that was a character-defining moment for a franchise that hasn't done that a lot. And once again, last night they fed off that crowd. That crowd was loud. That crowd was into it. It's really, I mean, is there a better? There's not many better sports markets right now than hockey in Nashville. It's just a great place to play. We all saw it with the All-Star game, but that team really feeds off that building, and that building was loud. They took advantage of it. Rene wasn't great, but he didn't have to be last night. I think when the Preds were at home too, they get some more favorable matchups. They can really pick and choose who they want Weber and Yossi going against. And look, you get Weber wide alone. Good thing Weber's slap shot hit the back of the net and not Martin Jones, or we'd be right in the open.
You see, there was a picture where it was Jones got out of the way. Like, not even Jones wants to be blocking that shot. Like,
I thought Ryan Ellis stepped up really well, too. He had set up a couple great scoring chances.
He's such an underrated player.
He is. I mean, that's a plus for them. For San Jose, the plus was Marlowe sort of woke up, because we haven't really seen a lot out of Patrick Marleau. So this series, I did hate the James Neal thing simply because when James
Why are you surprised? Now look at him.
When he's not scoring, that's what he resorts to.
He has a little Matt Cook in him when he's not playing well.
He scored. So he had a nice...
He did, but I'm saying he's not scoring a lot in this series.
Okay, I was like, he did score.
Yeah,
but yes, I agree. This series, I mean, I still think the Sharks are coming out, but... I think there's going to be more of a more interesting series. I didn't think that the Preds were going to put up a fight like they did last night, honestly. So it was nice to see that.
James Neal has the talent level of a good power forward or a good scoring winger, and the mentality of a rat. He always has. He has in Pittsburgh, and he has in Nashville. And if he's not contributing on the scoreboard, he's going to do that kind of stuff. Yeah. Which I don't. Sometimes it motivates your team. Sometimes I think it's a detriment to your team. So I mean, we'll see where that series is going. But I think in that you can say Nashville's back in it. And San Jose really has to put the pedal to the metal to go up 3-1 and go back to San Jose to close out the series. Game 3 of the St. Louis-Dallas series, a complete blowout by the Blues. And again, the goaltending and the defense of the Dallas Stars. This is the reason why I picked against them. Antti Niemi.
Do you think Miami should have gotten the start there? Do you think that was
the problem is, Jillian, is that Lettinen was terrible in Game 2 in the first period. They had to go to Niemi, and Niemi got them to overtime. So they figured, okay, well, let's see if he can carry it forth, and he allows 3 goals, and they yank him. I mean, I said to Russ, it says when you have 2 goaltenders, you have none. And
that is completely accurate. That is, I mean, yes. Yeah, it is.
It's like 2 starting quarterbacks. It just doesn't work. It's like
it's gotta mess with your mind, right? That's gotta mess with you a little bit. Like I know you're a professional, but that's gotta be in the back of your mind somewhere.
Yeah, we were watching the games last night, and someone said to me, they said, Dallas has 2 goalies, right? I go, yeah. He goes, which one's the good one? I'm like, I'm not sure. And they're not bad goalies. They're not bad goalies. They're both like B level goalies. The problem is you need more than that to win a cup.
And
if
also,
you're going to play,
and you would think they may be spending the most money on goaltending of any team in the NHL. $10.5 million per season on Niemi and Lettinen, and neither one can get out of the game without being pulled. And that's
what I would do long term, if you're going to play that style, you need a goalie that can stand on his head. Yeah. You just do. So I think you have to, in the offseason, you have to address that, try and get rid of both of them, and trade for a guy like Frederik Andersen. You need definition in goal.
Well,
good luck definition.
Good luck trying to get rid of either one of them. I mean,
I know.
What
does Leithinen have left on his deal?
I think he has another year. I think they both have another year. So, but Russ, I mean, St. Louis, Dallas came back in Game 2, had a chance in overtime. Antoine Roussel takes 2 penalties, gives St. Louis the opportunity on the power play. They win it. Last night there was absolutely no doubt who the better team was. They were walking around the Dallas defense. The crowd was
especially after Dallas scores first and then they give up that goal right away. You were like, we were on the phone and I was like, uh-oh, this is a problem because already there's a breakdown. It wouldn't be that crazy if they used Jack Campbell in this next game so they could actually get their defense to concentrate on playing defense because now we're putting in the young goalie, and you better do that. Otherwise, the score could be 8-1. I mean, Campbell's won some big games in his life. He's won an AHL championship.
Oh, good Lord.
For one game, just to throw another team off. They don't have a scouting report on him. You might try it.
I think Dan has some breaking news of some sort.
No, I just looked at their contracts. Oh my goodness. They each have 2 years left after this season. Yeah, Niemi's at 4.5, and Leithinen's at 5.9.
Yep.
Oh my!
It's hideous.
That's horrible.
And neither of them can really win them a game, and that's what you need. What you need in the playoffs. You need goalies who can win you a game.
The thing is, they played well during the regular season. There's no doubting that. But the thing is, you knew they were backed by a Dallas team that had the highest powered offense in the league. Sagan is out. I know that Ruff is stressing them to play defense. That's why he's justifying sitting out a guy like Nikushkin, 20-year-old kid who he says is defensively deficient. But you know what? Honestly, I think you need to be able to score as many goals as you can with the defense that they have.
Not even scoring. It's a big guy with speed who they have to respect when he's playing. When you don't have that guy playing, that opens up more room on the ice.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're not playing the bottom feeders of the Pacific Division right now. There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah, and also I think also St. Louis is sort of winning the psychological game here. I mean, Brian Elliott's not world on fire here, so they're not out of this series, but there's an opportunity here. But when you have Ryan Reeves, the Blues enforcer, fighting Curtis McKenzie, and then blowing kisses to the Dallas Stars bench.
But you have to be careful that you don't get too in over your head with that because it is just one game. Yes, it was a commanding game. They controlled it. They look like if I was not a fan of the game, like Tony X was there seeing it for the first time. But if I don't know what's going on, I'm like, well, obviously St. Louis is winning. But we all know that that's just one game, and it's a brand new game the next time. And who knows what goalie shows up because Elliott can sometimes let up some weak ones too, so you don't know what's going to happen. But if the Blues offense does keep producing that way, it does look a little scary for Dallas.
I have to point this out, Russ, because I thought it was pretty funny. Near the end of the first period, it was 2-1 St. Louis, and Elliott makes a great right pad save, and I can't remember. I think it was Klingberg. It was really close in, and hits the crossbar, and everybody saw that it hit the crossbar, and the referee pointed goal. And if it wasn't for replay, I mean that would have been like a conspiracy of conspiracies because I mean you heard the clink and he went goal.
There's some bad things. There's some bad things happening with that. I mean, the Reeves thing is something again out of the '70s. He's not the first guy to ever do that. It's just that we're not used to seeing that anymore, especially in the playoffs. So now all of a sudden, that's sort of crept back into the game, which is fine. Fans like it. It's okay.
Yeah, it's the Ty Domi doing the speed bag thing in New York.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like I said, I mean, if I'm the coach. And look, Lindy's tough on goalies, so he's not going to put Jack Campbell in. But if I'm the coach, the only way I could get into the head of my two goalies that I'm not happy with your play is by playing Campbell. And then maybe you'd fire one of them up because neither of them are fired up enough to play a good game.
Yeah, Russ, Jocelyn Tebow is still waiting to play as a backup in Buffalo. He played Ryan Miller for 3 straight months.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the game tonight because it's a critical game in the series that everybody's watching. Pittsburgh-Washington, Game 4. Ole Mata is out, obviously, after taking the hit from Brooks Orpik. Letang is out for the 1-game suspension for the hit on Marcus Johansson. Eric Fehr is a game-time decision, and apparently Marcus Johansson will play. So Barry Trotz successfully used his little chicanery and got the league to kick in on Letang for the game suspension. Russ, I think if Washington doesn't win this game, they're over with.
Yeah, but I think they're going to win it. I mean, Matt Rust is the other player that's iffy for Pittsburgh. Him and Fehr are both game time decisions, is what they said. And so here's the thing. So they've called up Tom Sestito. Tom Sestito from the Winter Classic, had that nice mic'd-up conversation on the bench when he was a Ranger with Braden Shen as a Flyer. We all know about that one. We know all about his stuff. He's played 1 game in the history of his life in the NHL playoffs. And Alain Vigneault was the coach then, too, which is kind of funny. So I think the only reason Mike Sullivan is bringing up Sestito is so he could stand at center ice and shine up his stick and yell at everybody on the Caps and see if he can get something going in the pregame warm-ups like they used to do in the 70s. I think at the end of the day, one of those two guys, Fehr or Rust, will play, and Alexei will play, and they'll go with 7 defensemen, and Sestito is like smoke and mirrors, and Mike Sullivan's going back to, like Slapshot here.
Dan, I was waiting for Zach Sill to be called up for this game.
Well, it's funny because I actually know Steve when he was a Sound Tiger. We became friendly, and he's Alexei's a sexy Alexei as they call him, but he's no choir boy either. He has quite. I'm actually really happy for him because he's a super guy. So it's great that he's getting called up. But Tom Sestito, man, you want to see some story? Like I saw him play so much against the Sound Tigers, and Trevor Gillies called him. What did he tell me? Trevor Gillies, who also not a choir boy, called him a punching bag with a mustache. Some of the fight, the funny thing is, Tom Sestito is such a willing combatant. I don't know if I've ever seen him win a fight. That's the funny thing.
I've seen him win a few. I have.
Yeah, I just seem to have his. Well, the Sound Tigers had some felons on those teams, so maybe that's why Michael Haley and Gallant and Trevor Gillies they could definitely bring it. But
Russ,
is not he's not bringing much to the table. If you're playing him, it's for one reason and one reason only.
If Sestito won a fight,
here's a picture.
It must have been one.
Here we go. If you can read that, that is Sestito getting his face punched in by Trevor Gillies, and Trevor wrote, "Come get some, Tommy." Trevor Gillies. That's one of my favorite. That's one of the favorite pictures I have autographed.
Russ,
get some, Tommy.
If Tom Sestito won a fight, it must have been when PJ Stock was in the league.
But think about it. If Mike Sullivan puts him in a game, that's just dumb. Like now you're just shortening your bench later in the game. And literally, if you're putting him in and he's going to try and start a fight, I don't even think Washington's going to fight with him. I don't even think Wilson will fight with him. That's the point. So I really think this is just pregame chicanery. Yeah. And Sullivan seems to be – if you look at what Sullivan does, a lot of what he does as a coach now is very Tortorella-oriented. It really is.
I mean – I think that right now what has to happen is that the big guys on the Capitals really have to come to the forefront because Netsov has not had a good playoff.
No.
Johansson actually has been one of their better scorers. I mean, and he only had I think 17 goals this year, and he stepped up in the playoffs. But Backstrom has been okay, but it seems that he's getting more secondary offense when it comes to Ovechkin scoring.
Last time I questioned Backstrom, he came back and won a game, right? I mean, that's probably what will happen again.
Right, but they need their big guys. You know, I mean, Oshie came through in Game 1 with the hat trick. They need their big guys to come up big.
I think if the Capitals can't win with Letang not being there, I mean that's a huge blow to the Pens. He's put up big numbers for the Pens. So if they I kind of am with you on this, Mike. If the Caps just can't win tonight, I mean the series obviously isn't over, but I think they have to be a little bit deflated.
Yeah. Well, and I think Washington, what they also have to do is step up their physical game if they can, if possible. I mean, and I know they're trying to be physical, and I think they led in hits in Game 3, but I think they have to hit the right guys. You don't hit the Rusts and the Kuhnhackels. You hit Crosby, you hit Malkin, you hit Kessel if you can catch him. Phil Kessel doesn't like to be hit. If Alex
Ovechkin, he doesn't. No, he does Malkin.
You don't want to hit Malkin because if you don't take him out of the game, he'll kill you. He'll start to score. He will.
Yeah,
I don't know because the Islanders get under Malkin's skin, and they've done a good job against him. Like
in the playoffs, I've seen him destroy teams, and all of a sudden he's in a funk, and you wake him up.
Yeah, but he's not exactly in a funk right now. I mean,
I know he's not. No,
it's not.
But I think with the Capitals is like the hit when the hit disparage. You know, when there's such a big difference in hits, it's one thing to finish your check and the puck's already gone. You gotta put your body on someone when they have the puck. You have to try and separate them from the puck because when you have so many more hits than the opposition, it means you don't have the puck and you're chasing it for the whole game.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry, Julian.
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, to me, this is the key game of the series, and Matt Murray is going to get the start. I mean, Russ, I don't think Fleury is going to get in the series. I mean, unless Murray has a really bad game.
Murray'd have to give up like 4 unanswered goals or something, and then they might bring him in.
Okay. Couple notes here. We had a discussion last night, Russ, and yesterday, on the webcast yesterday about the coaching situations in the league. Renaud Lavoie from TBA Sports, who's pretty good in terms of information, says that Randy Carlyle will be among the coaches getting an interview in Calgary. That to me, that's a no-brainer. I maybe not Mark Crawford because somebody pointed out Bob Hartley came from Switzerland to Calgary, and so Crawford is coming from Switzerland. Not to say that they're the same type of coach, but I think they want to avoid that. Where Carlisle, I think he was unfairly maligned for the situation in Toronto, and I think he's a much better coach. That team was a team of derelicts, and I think he really suffered because of that. So, I really hope Randy Carlyle gets another chance because I think he's an excellent coach.
I don't think he's the right fit there. I really think they need a young coach.
He may not be.
Randy Carlyle is going to go there, right? And he's going to stress defensive play, and he's got mainly offensive defensemen there. How is that going to work out?
Yeah, he stressed defensive play.
I think you got to look at the evolution of the game, and I don't know if you want to keep bringing in guys who have just been recycled. I give credit to the Flyers for finding a good young coach who from the college ranks. It's like look in the AHL. There are John Cooper. Who's coaching the?
Well, we brought up Travis Green. We brought up Luke Richardson. There's guys that are certainly.
Let's see some new voices. Let's see some new faces.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee that the new voices and the new faces are going to have any more positive effect. I mean, Willie Desjardins had a great first year in Vancouver. This year, most of the Vancouver fan base wanted him fired because they.
Look at that roster. It has nothing to do with Willie Desjardins.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with him.
I agree, but the thing is, it's like, I mean, you're saying a new voice, a new person. I mean, Dallas Aikens was a new person in Edmonton, and he didn't have any. And then again, that team is a team that needs to be blown apart. I mean,
it has to be the right fit. Like a team like that, with a bunch of 18-year-olds that's never won anything. They need in that situation. You need structure. You need a guy like that's been around the block. For other situations, you have to look at all right, what do I have right now? And the Flames have some good young players, some good young creative offensive defensemen. You need someone who's going to harness that and not try and neuter them.
And I don't think
there's also for Calgary. I was reading today what Brian Burke said he wants his team to be like a black and blue type of team. You know, he wants it to be.
You better change the roster then.
But Brian Burke's
I was like, this is a surprise. Isn't that the same thing he pulled? Was it in Toronto? Same.
But he's not the GM. He's just sort of the spokesman.
Yeah.
Right. But see,
he is speaking on behalf, though. You wouldn't be saying that without getting the okay.
I don't know about that. Until Bradshaw Living signs whoever he's signing, I think he can't control Brian Burke. Nobody can, and that's fine. I love the guy. No, I love the guy, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, he fills headlines. It still doesn't mean that's what's going to happen.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's
power forward. Power forward, Johnny Gaudreau.
Yeah. He'll trade him for Tyler Biggs.
Joe Malone or one of those guys.
2008, Brian Burke, pugnacity, testosterone, and truculence. And he did none of it in Toronto. He went out and he got Tim Connolly and Phil Kessel and Jake Gardner.
Oh, he got Joe Cologne. He did. From the Bruins. He's big.
You got Cole Moore. Great.
Great. I call him.
Great.
Cole Moore and Fraser McLaren, and then he got a bunch of guys who, are gnats that flew around. I mean, that's... Yeah. It's nice to talk that way, but you've got one of the best young cores in the NHL with Monahan and Gaudreau and Bennett, and a good defense with Hamilton and Brody and Giordano. And I mean, if you give Randy Carlyle that core, I think he could get them to a better place if they get a goaltender. If they don't get a goaltender, they're not winning one way or the other.
Well, I mean, they're going to get a goalie. Everybody's talking about it, but again, Carlisle could be a better fit for some other teams. I don't like it for that team. And again, I don't see how this is so easy for Bruce Boudreau to go from one job to another. It's just crazy. I think at some point teams have to look at this and say, Bruce, we're going to call a timeout for you. You need a timeout because you need to look at how you call these games and how you're coaching these games, and if you're even is there an evolution of Bruce Boudreau? I don't think so. Yeah, he's the same guy.
But Bruce Boudreau, and we talked about this, Russ. Bruce Boudreau, he's the nice coach. He's the player-friendly coach. He's the guy you bring in after the taskmaster. Carlisle was the taskmaster in Anaheim. Boudreau was fired in Washington. They fired Carlisle to make room for Boudreau. Now you got a guy like Mike Yeo, who was a taskmaster in Minnesota. You bring in Boudreau as the nice guy, as the player-friendly guy. I mean, maybe there are better coaches out there, but there are not many of those player-friendly guys, and that's what I think his role is. So that's where I think it's going. I think he's going to get a job. I don't know which.
It's ridiculous because here's the thing. At the end of the day, so you bring in the nice guy, and then when you fall short, then 3-4 years from now, you're like, hey, Bruce, I got to fire you. And he's like, yeah, I know. He pretty much knows the drill, and then he goes and gets another job. It's like, it's a little crazy.
To close out the show, this played out on Twitter yesterday. It was pretty demoralizing in a way. Eric Erlinson, who is the reporter for the Tampa Tribune,
oh yeah,
covering the New York Islanders Tampa series in Brooklyn. Apparently, the Tampa Tribune was purchased or merged with another. It's part of the USA Today Gannett Tribune company, and the Tribune got folded in the middle, and they apparently closed his corporate phone account, so he loses all his contacts, and he's left rudderless in Brooklyn. I don't know if he got his credentials yanked because there's no, he wasn't with the paper anymore. But I know that he posted on Twitter anybody hiring, and he was heading from Brooklyn back to Tampa before the game. So it was just sort of like a really oddly timed and badly handled. I mean, I understand the corporate world and the fact that businesses get folded up, but when you got reporters in the field, you shouldn't do that. You should be a little.
Somebody have at least told him, like, hey, I know you're not here, but this is going to happen.
Yeah,
they could have called him. They had his phone.
What was that?
They have his phone. They could have called.
Yeah, I mean, not even forget calling. Send a text at least. My God, like.
I mean, I will say this: John Cooper did something very nice, and he endorsed him on Twitter, saying somebody should hire him, and that was a real classy thing to do. But at the end of the day, this is a horrible thing to happen. I get business is business. I get cutthroat is cutthroat. But you know what? You're still dealing with human beings, and when you do have someone out in the field, that's really bad. You're really exposed out there, and it's not a cool thing to have happen. It really isn't. I felt very bad.
Yeah. What's nice though is that somebody did come up and endorse him too, because that also just makes the what'd you say? It was like the Tampa Bay Tribune. It just shows that it. I don't want to say there was a reason for it happening, but like if that's how they treat people, like you can't even have a little bit of decency like that. Like that's.
It was all dollars and cents. It was a corporate merger, and they just shut the paper down.
Yeah, but if you have people out in the field, I like you said, Russ, business is business, but you have people running that are bringing in the money for you, and without the people, it goes away. So you do have to care about them. Whether or not you like to do it, you still have to care about them a little bit.
I would think, and this is just me. I've never been in that situation. I've been in a situation where I was working for a company and they folded, and everybody gets their money and they leave. But in this situation, when a guy's out in the field, like, did they cancel his flight? Do they cancel his rental car? Like, those are things where I think there should be a law where, look, you're out in the field, you should be able to get back home and not have to do anything on your own dime because this isn't his fault. Yeah. And I think that's what's really bad because as a reporter, you're assuming these things are all okay, and then it could all break down overnight like that. It's horrible.
Imagine if the Tampa Tribune had a reporter in Afghanistan and said, "Okay, you're done."
I was just going to say, did he have to pay for his own flight back, or do we not know that?
I don't know. I don't know for sure, but
I would imagine, honestly, that he had to find a way. I would imagine.
Yeah, unless he had a round trip flight that was already. But the thing was, I think he may have had a round trip ticket for following Game 4, but since he wasn't working and couldn't go to the game, he was heading back and looking for an earlier flight. So, yeah, honestly, it's a statement. It shows how the hockey world, the hockey writing world, it's a very small circle, and a lot of reporters like Arthur Staple, who in New York, and Bob McKenzie, I know, expressed something on Twitter. A lot of people came to the defense or tried to get Eric's name out there, and I really hope he does get another job. But it's everybody feels for somebody like that because it could happen to them down the line, and the changing landscape of media right now. Russ and I talked about it yesterday. Newspapers had an opportunity years and years ago to get their foot in the door in terms of internet, and they got beat to the punch by entrepreneurial spirit of people starting websites, and now they've been playing catch up for over a decade, and they're losing. And cities are going to one newspaper now when they had 2 or 3 before.
They had a 10-year window, and what they would do was they would put B content, C content online, and basically try and still sell you a subscription to the paper while you were online. And there was a person like me who started a website 16 years ago that hadn't had a newspaper subscription for 10 years before that because I just got tired of it. Not everybody wants to read the paper anymore. I get that if you're on the subway or whatever, it's a good thing to do. So I think there'll always be some sort of papers around. But at the end of the day, they should have put their best content up there. They should have figured out how to monetize it. They had enough money to do it, but they cared more about their subscriptions and everything else. And once people, started dying off, and once the younger generation, tell me how many people under 30 even read a newspaper? It's probably 0.
They want to read the news on their phone.
I'm not under 30, but I don't read it.
I'm under 30 and I don't read it. So, and I don't know anybody that actually reads the newspaper.
Right.
Well, look, you have to look at business decisions in this time, and I feel bad for them, but if you're working in a newspaper right now, you have to walk around with your resume. You have to know that this could happen at any minute. Look, I got laid off from a company making $9 billion a year. Okay, $9 billion a year making. Okay, they weren't losing money, and they're still trimming. They're still trimming. Every year laying people off. this industry is very difficult right now. I know a lot of good people that just lost their jobs at other companies, big time companies like scaling down because they're paying so much for the sports they can't afford to pay their employees. And that's more important than actually paying their employees is having the rights to some of these sports. So look, I get it and I see it, and you have to be versatile and you have to be ready that this is going to happen to you. But with that being said, it's like you have to be progressive, and the companies that are doing well are the companies that could look ahead. Like Blockbuster Video had the chance to buy Netflix for $1 million, and they laughed at Netflix. And now look at that now. Okay, Borders laughed at Barnes & Noble for making the Nook. And now look at Border. You have to stay ahead of the time, and you have to push that. If you're going to be a part of it, you have to push the technology. And the papers and the places that are doing well right now are the ones that are ahead with the online and streaming content.
And you know why? Like you said, you have to push it. You have to be the one that pushes it, because if you don't, I think, was it Mike or Russ said, the entrepreneurial spirit, takes over. And with today's technology, you don't need to have a big business behind you. You can start something literally from nothing. A lot of these things, they start with 0 viewers, 0 subscribers, 0 likes, whatever you want to say, and they start and they just do it, and they do it with fear. They're fearless about it, and that's what should be. Yeah. So what are we at now, guys?
No, but look, you have to look ahead and you have to be progressive. Look at Major League Baseball. Okay, they created something, BAM, Baseball Advanced Media, where they created a technology that's unique and better than anything in the field. And now they have their foot not just in the MLB, they have their foot in the NHL, the PGA Network, the WWE, and there's some other rumors that there's going to be some other big news coming with them real quick. So just think of all the money that baseball makes. And then just think of something they created completely different that's already.
I don't think it's big news, Dan. They're pushing golf like crazy, so obviously they're doing something with golf.
No, there's something big. There's something bigger down the road that might even happen. Let's put it this way. There is a mouse that's interested in BAM.
Okay. Well, I'll also say this. Back in 2000, when I did start a website, for the first couple of years, I used to get more hits than MLB.com. For my baseball part of my website, and for NHL.com. And that happened for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden they dumped a lot of money into their web and into their technology, and now I couldn't even get close to them if I ever tried, because I don't have those kinds of resources. But it just shows you, I saw that happening, and it can happen, and the papers didn't do that.
Well, one final thing here. That company that made $9 billion, checking out their website on Monday night, during the Pittsburgh-Washington game, and I was checking the box scores for baseball and looked at the top of the page, and the Penguins game was at the end of 2 periods. Their scoreboard was after 1.
Yeah.
So obviously they cut a lot of people out of their updates for their scoreboards because.
No, they have been behind. That company has been behind. With online streaming for years now, despite people, including myself, saying, "Look, this is the future. You got to spend money here. You can't treat it like a second-grade citizen. This is you cannot. You have to know how people and understand how people are viewing your content. And it's not sitting down to watch the 6 o'clock news anymore. It's when they're on their phone. It's when they're traveling. You have to understand what your market is. And look, every time that you see something like that, I just say, "Hey, have fun watching the World Cup this summer."
I have a question for you guys then. What do you think? The NFL has Twitter now. Was it Twitter they came to terms with for streaming rights? And honestly, with me traveling a lot recently, I was watching a lot of these games on my phone, and it was tough at times. But I was still surprised that the NHL had that kind of capability that I could stream most of it. Do you think the NHL needs to be better with streaming, and what do you kind of hope to see something like some type of streaming partnership with some type of social media?
I mean, Dan, go first because you're in the business. Then I'll tell you what I think.
I think the NHL does an outstanding job with its streaming content. It's significantly better than it was 5 years ago. Now the fact that BAM, Baseball Advanced Media, is running it, I think it's only going to get better. And I already know that it's going to have a complete new feel and look for October of this year. I think they do an outstanding job. I actually wish that the online content was as good as the actual coverage that you see on the networks. throughout the country. I wish NBC was as good as the online content that the NHL provides.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I only have a Samsung 5, right, Galaxy 5, and I've been able to watch unbelievable, great, perfect online streaming from MLB and the NHL. So that's been great. No complaints here. I think the NFL with Twitter is going to be horrible, though, because when they had the game from England last year, a lot of people complained about latency and other problems trying to watch that game. I think trying to watch an entire football game on Twitter is going to be hard. I don't think that's going to go off very easy. I don't.
Yeah, I agree, but we'll see. I'm sure the NFL will try to work it out like they've worked out the deflate gate with Tom Brady.
Do just as great of a job.
Yeah, there you go. For Jillian Fisher, for Dan Petru, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.